Magic, mystery, and a castle that walks. What better place to begin? Hey everyone, welcome back to Movies on the Brain. I'm Jason, and today I'm stepping into the world of wonder with my very first Studio Ghibli film, Howl's Moving Castle. Directed by the legendary Hayao Miyazaki, this visually enchanting journey is filled with charm, heart, and just the right amount of strangeness. I watched the English dub version, which features an incredible voice cast including Christian Bale, Emily Mortimer, Gene Simmons, and Billy Crystal. It's a film that just doesn't just tell a story, it casts a spell. Let's get into it. Howl's Moving Castle opened in Japanese theaters on November 20th, 2004 with a budget of $24 million, while it also had a small domestic release on June 10th, 2005. During the combined theatrical releases, it earned $9.1 million domestically and $231.6 million internationally, making a worldwide total of $240.9 million. During its original opening weekend in Japan, it earned a total of $13.9 million, finishing number one in the Japanese box office, ahead of the likes of Sea Cat, Blood and Bones, Collateral, and Be With You, numbers 5 through 2 respectively, with Sea Cat also opening the same weekend. Its final weekend in Japan saw it earn $353,608, finishing its run in the Japanese box office at number 8. Sophie, a young milliner and eldest of 3 sisters, encounters a wizard named Howl on her way to visit her sister Letty. Upon returning home, she meets the Witch of the Waste, who transforms her into a 90-year-old woman. Seeking to break the curse, Sophie leaves home and sets off through the countryside. She meets a living scarecrow whom she calls Turnip Head. He leads her to Howl's Moving Castle, which she enters without an invitation. She subsequently meets Howl's young apprentice, Markle, and a fire demon named Calcifer, the source of the castle's magic and movement. Calcifer makes a deal with Sophie, agreeing to break her curse if she breaks his link with Howl. When Howl appears, Sophie announces that she has hired herself as a cleaning lady. Meanwhile, Sophie's nation is caught up in a war with a neighboring kingdom, which is searching for its missing prince. The king summons Howl to fight in the war. However, Howl decides to send Sophie to the king under the pretense of being his mother to tell him Howl is too much of a coward to fight. Before leaving, he gives Sophie a charmed ring that leads her to Calcifer and guarantees her safety. Sophie meets Solomon, the king's head sorceress, and also the Witch of the Waste, whom Solomon punished by draining all of her power and reverting her to her true age, thus reducing her into a harmless and very elderly woman. Solomon warns Sophie that Howl will meet the same fate if he does not fight for the king. Howl then arrives to rescue Sophie. Solomon tries to trap him by turning him into a monster, but with Sophie's help, he remembers himself and just barely avoids death. The duo escape along with the Witch of the West and Solomon's dog, Heen. Soldiers break into the homes of both Jenkins and Pendragon's, Howl's 2 aliases, finding them to be nothing more than abandoned buildings in disguise. The castle's magical door had allowed travel through both falls or shop fronts. Sophie learns that Howl's life is somehow bound to Calcifer's, and that Howl has been transforming into a bird-like creature to interfere with both sides in the war, but each transformation makes it more difficult for him to return to human form. Howl then has the castle magically linked to Sophie's home, parking the castle itself on the town's outskirts. A few days later, the town is bombarded by enemy aircraft and Solomon's henchmen attack the house in Sophie's hat shop. Howl heads out to protect the group. Sophie then moves everyone out of the house and removes Calcifer from the fireplace, which collapses the castle. The Witch of the Waste realizes that Calcifer has Howl's heart and grabs the fire demon, setting herself on fire. Sophie panics and pours water onto the witch, which douses Calcifer. The remainder of the castle then splits in two, Sophie falls down a chasm and is separated from the group. Following the charmed ring, Sophie wanders into a scene from the past where she sees a young Howl catch a falling star, Calcifer, and give him his heart. Sophie calls for them to find her in the future as she is teleported away. She returns to the present, finds Howl, and they reunite with the others. The witch returns Howl's heart, and Sophie places it back inside Howl, reviving him and freeing Calcifer, though he decides to stay. Sophie's curse is broken, though her hair remains silver. After she kisses Turnip Head on the cheek, he returns to human form, revealing himself to be Justin, the missing prince from the enemy kingdom. He reveals that only his true love's kiss can break its curse. After seeing Sophie's affection lies with Howl, he promptly heads for home to cease the war, but promises he will see them again. Solomon, watching through a crystal globe, also decides to end the war. Sometime later, bombers fly under dark skies over a recovered and green countryside, headed to another war, while Sophie, Howl, and the others travel in the opposite direction in a new flying castle. As the castle soars away, Howl and Sophie kiss on the castle's balcony. Now let's check out the cast and some of their other roles. Emily Mortimer as young Sophie Hatter. Other roles for Emily Mortimer include Jane Banks in Mary Poppins Returns, Mary Brown in Paddington in Peru, and Holly Shiftwell in Cars 2. Gene Simmons as old Sophie Hatter. Before her passing in January of 2010, other roles for Gene Simmons included M in How to Make an American Quilt, Aunt Mary in The Dawning, and Sarah Brown in Guys and Dolls. Christian Bale as Howl. Other roles for Christian Bale include Ken Miles in Ford v Ferrari, Gore the God Butcher in Thor Love and Thunder, and Bruce Wayne in Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy. Lauren Bacall as the Witch of the Waste. Before her passing in August of 2014, other roles for Lauren Bacall include Bond Rogers in The Shootist, Hannah Morgan in The Mirror Has Two Faces, and Sally Ross in The Fan. Billy Crystal as Calcifer. Other roles for Billy Crystal include Mickey in Forget Paris, Mike Wazowski in Monsters, Inc., and Mitch Robbins in City Slickers. Josh Hutcherson as Markle. Other roles for Josh Hutcherson include Walter in Zathura: A Space Journey, Derek Danforth in The Beekeeper, and Billy in Burn. Blythe Danner as Solomon. Other roles for Blythe Danner include Dina Burns in Meet the Parents, Tara Walton in Paul, and Marilyn Truman in the TV show Will and Grace. Jenna Malone as Letty. Other roles for Jenna Malone include Ruby in The Neon Demon, Joanna Mason in the Hunger Games franchise, and Beth in Love Lies Bleeding. Marie Devon as Honey. Other roles for Marie Devon include Togemon in the TV show Digimon, the Queen in The Queen's Corgi, and Isabella in the TV show Paradise Kiss. Crispin Freeman as Prince Justin / Turniphead. Other roles for Crispin Freeman include Rude, or Rude, I don't know how you say his name, in Final Fantasy VII, the Final Fantasy VII Advent Children video game, Winston in the Overwatch video game, and Harriet's dad in the TV show Harriet the Spy. Mark Silverman as the King of Ingery. Other roles for Mark Silverman include the tutorial voice in the Quarry video game, Victor Von Ion in the Ratchet & Clank video game, and the TV announcer in Fat Albert. D. Bradley Baker as Heen. Other roles for D. Bradley Baker include Klaus in the TV show American Dad, Terry the Platypus in the TV show Phineas and Ferb, and Flink in Spellbound. Just from the very first shots, I'm already loving the animation style. From that first bit of dialogue, we already get the vibe that Hal isn't a good person, or so we think, which is nice considering at this point we haven't seen him hauling his castle. The sound design is fantastic, from the doors creaking open and shutting to Sophie just walking on the porch and on really anywhere. Just amazing. And when I saw Christian Bale was in this as well as a lot of other Studio Ghibli films, I was surprised. But just from his first few lines as Howl, he's got the perfect voice for this man of mystery. It's an interesting power that the Witch of the Waste has to turn Sophie old, and I love that the score behind our introduction to the witch gives us a hint that she's evil. It really sets the stage for a good story, I think. Sophie's adjusting to being an old lady rather well, I think, even if she's running away from home because of it. Billy Crystal's in this too. It's even more mind blowing than Christian Bale. I'm loving the voice he's using as Calcifer. It's just barely recognizable that it's him. Gene Simmons, Christian Bale, and Josh Hutcherson have really great chemistry in the first scene with uh, Sophie, Markle, and Howl, and then to immediately cut to Sophie cleaning the castle like a maniac is honestly such a fun moment. Every time we cut to a moving castle, I'm in awe of the movement of the machinations of it. The animation is absolutely incredible. Hal is pretty vain, only caring about looking beautiful and thinking life has no meaning if you're not beautiful. Now I think I understand why the Witch of the Waste turned Sophie old, to hopefully get Hal to understand looks aren't everything. I like how even though the Witch of the Waste turned Sophie into an old woman, Sophie still tried to show compassion to her when in the presence of Solomon. Hal showing Sophie his secret garden is such a touching scene, and I love that Sophie's voice goes in and out from young to old. I kind of wonder if that was intentional. If you know, let me know in the comments. I'm pretty sure it is, though. The destruction of Howl's castle is bittersweet. It's beautifully animated, but honestly, it sucked watching it just be destroyed. Solomon's comments about the Witch of the Waste being greedy came back to add one final kink in the story, with her wanting Howl's heart for herself, thus separating Markle and the Witch of the Waste from Sophie and Heen. After Sophie figured out how to save both Calcifer and Howl, we see Turnip Head was actually the missing prince. Overall, I feel like it's a fantastic story, and I think I chose the perfect first Studio Ghibli film to watch, and I can't wait to watch the rest of them. Now let's check out some fun facts and trivia. This film is an adaptation of a novel of the same name by Welsh author Diana Wynne Jones. Upon seeing Spirited Away, Christian Bale immediately agreed to play any role in this film. He didn't expect to get the titular role. Sophie's city was modeled after Colmar, France. Although the film was not released in the United Kingdom until September 23rd, 2005, which happened to be my birthday that year. Well, happened to be my birthday. Director Hayao Miyazaki personally traveled to England in the summer of 2004 to give a private showing of the film to Diana Wynne Jones. Hayao Miyazaki and Lauren Bacall, both longtime fans of each other's work, met at a subtitled screening in New York. Reportedly, Bacall jokingly asked Miyazaki if he was married. In the novel, Sophie has two sisters. The second is named Martha, who is sent to be a witch's apprentice, who finds a spell to change her appearance and switch with Letty so that she can work in a bakery instead. So when Sophia goes to see Letty at the film's beginning, it should have been Martha in disguise. Martha is also a character that Markle falls in love with in the book. In the movie, Martha is mentioned by the shop girls, saying that Howl ate Martha's heart, but is not present as Sophie's sister. In the novel, the Black Door is a portal to Howl's homeland, which is in Wales in our current time and dimension. Christian Bale, who voices Howl in the English version, is from Wales. This was Gene Simmons' last cinema film, and this was Christian Bale's first animated film since Pocahontas. And that wraps up my thoughts on Howl's Moving Castle, a film that floats between beauty and chaos, weaving magic into every frame. As my first step into the world of Studio Ghibli, it's safe to say the journey has only just begun. I'll definitely be watching and reviewing more Ghibli films in the future, So if you're a fan of animation, fantasy, or just great storytelling, stay tuned. Thanks for watching Movies on the Brain. I'm Jayson, and I'll see you next time, wherever the next story takes us.